20 times stronger. Those three words, uttered by Iranian officials 48 hours ago, seemed like the kind of hyperbolic threat that Middle Eastern leaders throw around when they're backed into a corner. Empty rhetoric, desperate posturing. We should have listened more carefully. What unfolded over the weekend wasn't just Iran making good on that promise. It was both nations crossing every red line that has kept this conflict from consuming the entire region for decades. The rules of engagement that had governed Middle Eastern warfare since the 1970s were obliterated as thoroughly as the buildings now smoking in both Tehran and Tel Aviv. Let's talk about what 20 times stronger actually looked like when it arrived. 10 Israelis killed, at least 270 wounded, across 2 days of Iranian strikes. But the casualty count only tells part of the story. On the 15th of June, in retaliation for the airstrikes on Tehran, Iran launched 2 missile barrages on Israel, hitting civilian areas. We're not talking about military installations or strategic targets anymore. Both sides are now deliberately targeting civilian populations. The escalation that everyone feared is no longer a possibility. It's the reality we're living in. Israel and Iran launched fresh attacks on Sunday, killing and wounding civilians and raising concerns of a broader regional conflict, with both militaries urging civilians on the opposing side to take precautions against further strikes. Think about that last detail for a moment. Both militaries are now warning each other's civilians to evacuate. This isn't diplomacy. This is 2 nations preparing their populations for sustained, direct warfare. But here's where the situation becomes truly unprecedented. Israel's operation against Iran is expected to take weeks, not days, and is moving forward with implicit US approval. This isn't a limited surgical strike or a symbolic show of force. Israel has committed to a prolonged military campaign designed to permanently cripple Iran's nuclear and military capabilities. The scope is staggering. Under the codename Operation Rising Lion, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, and Mossad damaged key nuclear sites and military installations and killed several of Iran's top military leaders. Israel conducted a wide-scale wave of strikes on Sunday targeting several weapons production sites in Iran. Meanwhile, Iran's response has evolved from reactive to strategic. They're not just hitting back, they're demonstrating that Israel's strikes haven't crippled their capability to project power across the region. The most telling sign of how far this has escalated? The diplomatic collapse. Iranian state TV announced Friday Iran would not participate in the 6th round of nuclear negotiations with the US, which was scheduled to take place on Sunday, June 15, 2025, in Muscat, Oman. Trump's signature diplomatic initiative, the nuclear deal he spent months negotiating, is now as dead as the Iranian military commanders killed in Israeli strikes. But here's the detail that should terrify anyone watching this unfold. The regional players that everyone expected to join this fight are staying conspicuously quiet. A Hezbollah official tells Reuters that the Iranian proxy group based in Lebanon will not unilaterally launch an attack on Israel in support of Tehran. Iran's allies, Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, have been decimated by Israel. This isn't Iran's feared axis of resistance rallying to Tehran's defense. This is Iran standing essentially alone against Israel's most comprehensive military operation since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Which brings us to the most chilling realization of all. If Iran's traditional allies aren't joining this fight, and Iran is still promising escalation, what exactly do they have left to escalate with? The answer may lie in what Iran hasn't used yet: their most advanced missile systems, their remaining nuclear facilities, their sleeper cells in Western capitals, their ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz and crash the global economy. 20 times stronger wasn't just about the missiles that fell on Israeli cities this weekend. It was a promise that Iran is prepared to use capabilities they've kept in reserve for decades. The 48-hour period that began with Israel's Operation Rising Lion has fundamentally altered the strategic balance in the Middle East. 2 nuclear threshold nations are now in direct, sustained combat. The proxy war model that has defined regional conflict for 50 years has been abandoned, and both sides are preparing their populations for something that looks less like a limited military operation and more like total war. The most frightening part isn't what's already happened, it's that both sides are still promising escalation, even as they've already crossed every line that was supposed to prevent this scenario from ever occurring. Next episode. The global implications as oil prices soar, nuclear facilities burn, and the world's most volatile region slides toward a conflict that could reshape international order itself.